The organ swelled like a dying heartbeat, filling the vaulted nave of St. Mary's Episcopal Church with its mournful chords, as Joshua Harlan stood at the altar in a tailored tuxedo that felt like a straitjacket forged from his mother's unyielding expectations. His fiancée, Emily, radiant in ivory lace, squeezed his hand with a smile that masked her own quiet doubts. But before the priest could utter the words, "Who gives this woman?" the heavy oak doors exploded inward with a crash that echoed like gunfire. "Stop! For God's sake! Stop this madness right now. We can't let you throw your life away without Caleb here to see it." Joshua's heart slammed against his ribs, the world tilting as his mother, Evelyn Harlan, stormed down the aisle, her face a mask of righteous fury, pearls swinging like pendulums of judgment from her neck. Behind her trailed his father, stoic and red-faced, and a gaggle of aunts and uncles who'd flown in from Ohio, their whispers a venomous buzz that drowned out the stunned gasps of the 200 guests. Emily's bouquet slipped from her fingers, petals scattering like confetti from a funeral, and in that frozen instant, Joshua knew. The prisoner they waited for wasn't just family. He was the ghost that had haunted every choice Joshua had ever made, the man whose shadow had turned this perfect Midwestern wedding into a farce of secrets and shattered vows. The reception hall at the country club, usually a haven of crystal chandeliers and linen-draped tables groaning under roast beef and wedding cake, had devolved into a war room by dusk. Evelyn paced like a general marshalling troops, her heels clicking against the polished oak floors, while Uncle Ray nursed a scotch and muttered about family honor and that boy's mistakes. Joshua sat apart, nursing a lukewarm champagne flute. His tie loosened like a noose finally slackened, staring out at the manicured lawns of Willow Creek Country Club in upstate New York, where the autumn leaves bled crimson into the gathering twilight. Emily approached him tentatively, her makeup smudged from silent tears, the veil trailing behind her like a surrendered flag. "Josh, what the hell just happened? Your mom said Caleb's getting out today? After all this time?" Her voice cracked, not with anger, but with the quiet devastation of a woman who'd sensed the fracture lines in their engagement long before the church doors flew open. Joshua met her eyes, those soft hazel pools that had once promised normalcy. A house in the suburbs, 2.5 kids, a golden retriever named Max. Emily was everything his family adored. Daughter of a prominent accountant, volunteer at the local food bank, the kind of girl who baked pies for church potlucks and dreamed of missionary work in Haiti. Marrying her was the Harlan legacy scripted in blood and Bible verses, a bulwark against the scandals that had nearly toppled them a decade ago. But now, with Caleb's release looming like a storm front, the facade crumbled. "He's my brother, Joshua said, the words tasting like ash. "They paroled him this morning. Mom insisted we wait, said it wouldn't be right without the whole family. It was a lie by omission, the kind that had become his specialty. Caleb wasn't just his brother. He was the fire in Joshua's veins, the forbidden ache that had bloomed in stolen glances and midnight confessions when they were boys sharing a bunk bed in their cramped farmhouse outside Cleveland. Emily sank into the chair beside him, her hand hovering near his knee before withdrawing, as if touching him now might burn. "And you? What do you want, Josh?" "Because this." She gestured vaguely at the half-eaten cake, the wilting flowers, the guests milling like awkward extras in a halted play. "This feels like it's not about family anymore. It's about you running from something." He wanted to tell her everything. How Caleb's arrest at 19 for a bar fight that escalated into an assault charge, fueled by too much cheap whiskey and a homophobic slur from a drunk trucker, had been the family's breaking point. How Evelyn had wept and prayed, blaming those sinful urges, that Caleb had confessed to her in a moment of teenage vulnerability, the ones that mirrored Joshua's own buried truths. How the Harlans had buried the scandal deep, shipping Caleb off to Sing Sing upstate while pressuring Joshua to man up and court Emily, the perfect cover for their unraveling Protestant dynasty. But the words stuck, lodged like thorns. Instead, Joshua forced a smile, the one he'd perfected in boardrooms where he sold real estate to faceless executives. "It's just a delay, babe. We'll reschedule. Make it right," as she leaned in to kiss his cheek, her lips cool and forgiving. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A blocked number, but he knew. Caleb. Free. Waiting. That night, in the bridal suite of the Hilton they'd booked for the honeymoon that never was, Joshua lay awake beside Emily's sleeping form, the king-sized bed a vast ocean of regret. Moonlight sliced through the curtains, casting silver bars across the carpet, and he slipped out, barefoot, to the balcony overlooking the Hudson River. The water churned black and restless below, mirroring the storm in his chest. He dialed the number from memory, the one Caleb had smuggled to him through a prison pal's contraband phone. "Josh!" Caleb's voice rasped through the line, gravelly from years of silence and chain-smoking in the yard, but laced with that old warmth, like sun-baked asphalt after a summer rain. "You're out." It wasn't a question. Joshua gripped the railing, knuckles whitening, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. "Yeah. Breathed real air today. Smells like diesel and regret." A pause, heavy as the river's current. "Heard about the wedding. Mom called the warden's office, begged them to hold you up. Said it was God's timing." Joshua laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the water. God's timing. Sure. They halted everything mid-vow. Emily's a saint for not bolting. Another lie. Emily deserved better, but admitting that would mean admitting he did too. Caleb's breath hitched, the sound of a man swallowing shards. "You should have run, little brother. With her. Far from this mess. From me." The word brother landed like a punch, a reminder of the lines they towed and crossed in the dim-lit barns of their youth, hands brushing under quilts, whispers turning to touches that neither could name. Caleb had always been the bold one, the protector who took the fall for Joshua's hesitations, first in schoolyard scraps, then in the shadowed corners where their love dared to flicker. Prison had stolen his fire, but not his guilt. "I can't," Joshua whispered, the confession spilling like blood from a fresh wound. "Not without you." Silence stretched, broken only by the distant wail of a siren. Then, soft as a prayer, "Meet me. Greyhound Station on 8th. Dawn." Joshua ended the call, his reflection in the glass door a stranger, dark hair tousled, eyes shadowed like a fugitive's. He glanced back at Emily, her chest rising and falling in innocent rhythm, and felt the betrayal coil in his gut. She was collateral in a war he hadn't chosen, a pawn in the Harlan chess game of appearances. But love, the real kind, the kind that had survived barbed wire and Bible-thumping sermons, was a checkmate he couldn't ignore. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving over the Adirondacks as Joshua's rental Chevy hugged the winding back roads from Saratoga Springs, the wedding gifts abandoned in the hotel closet like relics of a life unlived. He'd left a note for Emily. "I'm sorry. This was never about you. Find your light." Scribbled in haste. It was cowardice wrapped in kindness, but it was all he could muster before slipping away, heart pounding like a war drum. The Greyhound station on the edge of Albany squatted under sodium lamps that buzzed like angry hornets, a concrete bunker ringed by chain link and overflowing dumpsters. Joshua parked in the shadows, scanning the lot for the familiar slouch, the broad shoulders that had once carried him piggyback through cornfields. Minutes ticked by, each one a lifetime, until a battered bus wheezed to a halt, disgorging passengers like smoke from a chimney. Weary travelers, a mother with toddlers in tow, and then him. Caleb stepped off last, duffel slung over one shoulder, prison-issue jeans hanging loose on a frame hardened by weights and want. His hair was cropped close, salt and pepper at the temples, and a fresh scar traced his jawline from a yard brawl Joshua didn't want to imagine. But his eyes, those storm-gray eyes, locked on Joshua's truck like a beacon, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just them, two boys from Ohio reclaiming stolen time. He slid into the passenger seat without a word, the scent of institutional soap and faint tobacco enveloping Joshua like a ghost's embrace. "Drive," Caleb murmured, voice thick. Anywhere but here. They fled west on I-90, the Hudson fading in the rearview, radio crackling with classic rock anthems that Caleb hummed off-key, Springsteen wailing about Born to Run ghosts. Joshua stole glances, memorizing the new lines etched on Caleb's face. Crow's feet from squinting at cell block skies, a tattoo of a compass rose blooming on his forearm, inked in secret to point him home. "How was it?" Joshua asked finally, when the silence grew too heavy, the miles stacking like unpaid debts. Caleb stared out at the blurring pines, jaw clenched, like drowning in slow motion. "Fights. Solitary. Dreams of you that'd get a man killed in there." He turned then, hand reaching across the console to trace Joshua's knuckles, a touch electric as the first rain of spring. "But I survived." For this, Joshua pulled over at a rest stop near Syracuse, the lot empty save for a semi idling like a sleeping beast. They tumbled out into the crisp air, leaves crunching underfoot, and collided against the truck's hood fierce, desperate, mouths crashing like waves on jagged rock. Caleb's hands roamed Joshua's back, bunching his flannel shirt, while Joshua fisted Caleb's collar, tasting salt and freedom on his tongue. It was messy, urgent, the kind of kiss that rewrote histories, erasing the years of letters smuggled past censors, the holidays spent in separate hells. "I left her," Joshua gasped when they broke apart, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling. "The wedding. Everything." Caleb's laugh was raw, triumphant. "Good. She was never yours. We are." But joy was fleeting, a spark in gunpowder. By noon, Joshua's phone erupted, voicemails from Evelyn, texts from Uncle Ray. "Where are you? Emily's a wreck. Come home, son." Caleb's poison. The betrayal stung fresh. His mother had always known, deep down, the thread that bound her sons tighter than blood. She'd buried it under prayers and prescriptions. But now, with Caleb free, it unraveled. They holed up in a no-tell motel off the thruway. Room 7 with its sagging bed and flickering neon sign bleeding red through the blinds. Caleb showered first, emerging in a towel that rode low on his hips, water beating on the scars that mapped his torso like a prison atlas. Joshua watched from the edge of the mattress, heart a wild thing, and when Caleb knelt before him, hands gentle on his thighs, it was worship slow, reverent, erasing the ghosts of what-ifs. "You're beautiful," Caleb whispered against Joshua's skin, voice hushed as if the walls had ears. And in that room, with the hum of the vending machine outside as their symphony, they made love like men starved, bodies entwining in a dance of rediscovery. Joshua arched under Caleb's touch, fingers threading through damp hair, the world outside dissolving into irrelevance. It was romantic, yes, candlelit in their minds, though the bulb overhead buzzed harshly, but laced with the drama of outlaws, the emotion of exiles finally home. Yet dawn brought reality's bite. News alerts pinged. Harlan Sion vanishes on wedding day. Family blames ex-con brother. Photos from the church. Emily's tearful interview with a local reporter. I thought we had forever. Evelyn's statement. Clipped and cold. My son is confused. We'll bring him back. The betrayal deepened. Someone had leaked it. Perhaps Ray. Ever the climber. Positioning the family for sympathy in their tight-knit community. Caleb paced, fury coiling like smoke. They'll hunt us. Drag you back to that altar. Parade you like a trophy. His eyes, wild now, pleaded. Marry me, Josh. Today. Before they can stop it. Joshua's pulse thundered. Marriage. Not the sanitized version his family peddled, but the real vow, sealed in a courthouse or chapel, rings bought from a pawn shop. It was rebellion, romance forged in fire, a humanistic stand against the machine that had ground Caleb down. Yes, he breathed. Without a word to them, they drove south to a nondescript town in Pennsylvania coal country, where a justice of the peace in a clapboard office barely glanced at their IDs. No guests, no flowers, just two men in rumpled clothes, hands trembling as they exchanged thrift store bands. The words I do a thunderclap in the quiet. Caleb's kiss at the altar was tender, eyes shining with unshed tears, and Joshua felt it then, the depth of their love, not just passion but partnership. A lifeline in America's vast, unforgiving heartland. But conflict brewed like a storm on the horizon. As they crossed into Ohio, heading for the farmhouse that held their ghosts, Evelyn's calls turned to pleas, then threats, disinheritance, public shaming. You're breaking us, Joshua. For him, after what he did, what he did hung unspoken. The fight that landed Caleb inside. But really, it was code for his queerness. The sin that Evelyn had tried to exorcise with conversion tapes and cold shoulders. The climax shattered on the Harlan doorstep, under a sky bruised purple with dusk. They'd come to claim what was theirs. The old barn where their first kiss had bloomed like wild honeysuckle. The attic trunk of letters Caleb had written from prison. But Evelyn waited, flanked by Ray and a sheriff's deputy, Emily's ring glinting accusingly on the porch rail. You brought him here? Evelyn's voice cracked like dry timber, eyes raking Caleb as if he were a stain. After we waited, held your wedding for his sorry ass? Joshua stepped forward, Caleb's hand warm in his, the ring a talisman against her venom. We didn't wait, Mom. We chose. Ray sneered, phone in hand, already dialing. Chose ruin. I leaked it to the press, thought it'd force your hand. Family first. Boy, betrayal landed like a blade. Uncle Ray, the confidant who'd toasted at rehearsals, selling them out for leverage in the family business. Caleb tensed, old prison instincts flaring. But Joshua held him back, voice steady. We're married, right? Legally. To each other. The air thickened, Evelyn collapsing into a wicker chair, sobs racking her frame. My boys. What have I done? It was the crack in her armor, the humanistic unraveling. Not hatred, but fear. The terror of a mother who'd armored her love in dogma. Emily appeared then, unbidden, from the shadows of the hydrangeas, her face pale but resolute. Let them go, Evelyn. It's not your fight anymore. In her eyes, Joshua saw forgiveness, a quiet humanity that shamed them all. The deputy shuffled, unwilling enforcer in a drama too personal for badges. As thunder rumbled, Joshua and Caleb turned toward the truck. Back straight, hands linked, a portrait of defiance and grace. They didn't look back, driving into the night toward Chicago, where apartments waited and lives could rebuild. In the rear view, the farmhouse shrank, a monument to what was lost. But in the cab, Caleb's head on Joshua's shoulder, their rings catching starlight, it was clear, love wasn't a prison sentence. It was parole, hard-won, eternal, profoundly American in its messy pursuit of truth. The Chicago skyline loomed like a jagged promise as they crossed the state line, sodium lights flickering against the endless black of Lake Michigan, a watery void that swallowed secrets whole. Joshua's hands gripped the wheel tighter than necessary, the weight of the rings on their fingers a constant, thrilling reminder that this wasn't a dream. Not anymore. Caleb dozed against the window, breath fogging the glass in soft rhythms, his profile softened by exhaustion, the scar on his jaw a silver thread in the dashboard glow. They'd chosen the Windy City on a whim, a pin on a mental map far from Ohio's prying eyes and New York's polished judgments. Joshua had a contact there, a former client, a queer architect named Theo who'd sold him a loft in the Loop last year, offhandedly mentioning a spare room in his Wicker Park brownstone for friends in transition. It was a lifeline, fragile as spider silk, but enough to tether them to something resembling normalcy. By midnight, they pulled into a side street off Damon Avenue, the brownstone's Victorian facade a warm brick bulwark against the November chill. Theo answered the door in sweatpants and a faded Ramones tee, his locks tied back, eyes widening in that split second of recognition before pulling them into a bare hug that smelled of patchouli and fresh-baked cornbread. "Holy shit, Harlan." Saw the headlines. "Y'all are viral fugitives now." He ushered them inside, the space a cozy chaos of exposed beams, bookshelves groaning with queer lit, from Baldwin to contemporary zines, and a kitchen island scarred from years of potlucks. Caleb hung back, duffel at his feet, the outsider's wariness etched in his stance. Prison had taught him trust was a luxury, doled out in scraps. But Theo moved easy, pouring whiskeys without asking, sliding plates of reheated gumbo across the counter. "Eat, then spill. But only if you want." Over the next hour, words tumbled out like dice from a cup. Joshua recounting the church debacle, the frantic drive, the Pennsylvania vows that still felt surreal. Caleb added fragments, his voice low and measured, the parole board's grilling, the halfway house he'd ditched hours after release, the raw hunger for a life unscripted. Theo listened, nodding, his own story slipping in, a coming out at 20 that cost him his Baptist family in Memphis, rebuilt in the city's embrace. By the fire crackling in the grate, Caleb's hand found Joshua's under a throw blanket, thumbs tracing circles that spoke volumes. It was romantic, this interlude, candlelight dancing on their faces, the faint jazz from Theo's speakers weaving a cocoon. But emotions simmered beneath, the unspoken fear of what came next, jobs, judgments, the long shadow of the Harlan name. Morning brought the grind. Joshua fired off emails from Theo's guest laptop, resigning from his real estate firm with a curt note about personal leave indefinite. Responses flooded in, shock from colleagues, a curt good riddance from his boss who'd always side-eyed his soft sales pitches. Caleb, meanwhile, stared at the want ads Theo printed, His GED from prison classes a thin shield against the world's demands. "What now?" he muttered, coffee mug steaming. "I'm a felon with ink that screams trouble." Theo clapped his shoulder, pragmatic as a big brother. "Start small. My crew needs a laborer for the Logan Square Reno demo work. No questions. And there's a group, Outlaws, meets Tuesdays at the Hideout. Ex-cons, queers, building something real." Joshua watched Caleb's face, the flicker of hope warring with doubt, and felt that deep, humanistic pull. Their love wasn't just fire. It was forge, hammering vulnerabilities into strength. They spent the day wandering Wicker Park, hands brushing in crowded boutiques, stealing kisses in alleyways perfumed with deep dish grease and autumn decay. At a vintage shop, Caleb unearthed a leather jacket that fit like it was tailored for rebels, Joshua insisting on the purchase with his emergency card. "Armor," he joked, but his eyes said survival. Yet conflict crept in like fog off the lake. That evening, as rain lashed the windows, Joshua's phone lit up with Emily's number. He answered in the kitchen, voice hushed, Caleb pretending to scroll Theo's records but listening with every fiber. "Josh." Emily's tone was steel wrapped in silk. No tears this time. "I saw the papers. Married. To him." A pause. The kind that stretches souls. "I get it now. The distance. The hesitations. You were kind. But God. It hurt." Guilt clawed at him, sharp as barbed wire. "I? No. Listen. Your mom's on a warpath. Hired a PI. Ray's feeding her leads. Thinks he's saving the family fortune by painting you as the victim. Betrayal's echo. Ray's greed a venom seeping through lines. But I talked to her. Told her to let go. For her sake." Joshua sank onto a stool, the room spinning. "Why? Because love like yours? It's rare. Poisonous families don't get to poison it." Her laugh was bittersweet. "Go live, Josh. I'll be okay." The call ended, leaving a hollow ache, but also release a bridge burned, but one that freed rather than bound. Caleb appeared then, arms encircling from behind, chin on Joshua's shoulder. "She's right. We're free." That night, in the narrow guest bed, they made love with a tenderness born of gratitude, slow explorations, whispers of vows renewed. Caleb's body, marked by time, felt like homecoming. Joshua's hands mapped every scar, turning pain into poetry. It was emotional, raw, their breaths syncing like heartbeats in tandem, the rain a lullaby outside. But dawn delivered drama's next act. Theo burst into breakfast, tablet in hand, a viral X thread, Harlan wedding crash trending, with grainy photos of their Pennsylvania courthouse exit, circled rings glinting like evidence. Comments cascaded, support from queer allies, love wins, 2 hearts, vitriol from trolls, sickos ruining America. And worst, a Harlan family statement via Evelyn's church newsletter. "Our son is lost to delusion. Prayers for his soul." Caleb's fork clattered, face ashen. "They'll come. Drag me back inside for corrupting you." Joshua reached across, fierce. Not without a fight, but inside, fear gnawed. The conflict wasn't just external. It was the mirror, Joshua's privilege as the good son, clashing with Caleb's hard-won scars. How long could he shield them both? Theo, ever the anchor, rallied. "Hit back. Op-ed for the Trib. Your story, unfiltered." It was a spark, humanistic in its call to claim narrative. Joshua nodded, fingers flying over keys that afternoon, pouring out the hook of halted vows, the romance of reclaimed love, the betrayal's sting. By evening, it was submitted, a grenade lobbed into the fray. As weeks blurred into routine, Caleb swinging hammers on Theo's site, sweat slick and alive, Joshua interviewing for freelance design gigs, sketching lofts that breathed freedom, their bond deepened. Evenings were sanctuary, picnics in Grant Park, Caleb's head in Joshua's lap as they watched freighters glide, stories exchanged like currency. Caleb spoke of prison dreams, poetry scratched on smuggled paper. Joshua confessed the boyhood terror of mirrors, fearing his reflection betrayed him. Romance flowered in small gestures, a mixtape Caleb burned of Motown soul, crooned off-key in the shower. Wildflowers Joshua tucked into Caleb's helmet, petals crushed but defiant. Yet emotion crested in quiet moments, like the night Caleb broke, sobs muffled in Joshua's chest over a letter from his old cellmate, dead by overdose. "I left him behind," he choked. Joshua held him through it, rocking like a prayer, their love a humanism that healed, not just hearts but histories. But climax loomed, inevitable as winter's bite. Evelyn's PI traced them via a careless swipe at a corner bodega, and one sleety December morning, a knock echoed, "Federal marshals? No, just Ray, coat dusted with snow, eyes hollow with something like regret." "Family meeting," he grunted, stepping in uninvited. Theo hovered, protective, but Joshua waved him off. In the living room, amid half-unpacked boxes, Ray unfolded like a bad hand. "She's dying, Josh. Cancer. Stage 4. Wants you home. Both of you." The room tilted, betrayal morphing to tragedy. Caleb stiffened, hand finding Joshua's, but Joshua saw the hook, guilt as lure. "Why now, after everything?" Ray's voice cracked, uncharacteristic. She wrote the op-ed response. "Called you her brave boys, but she's scared. Alone." Joshua's world fractured, love for Caleb warring with the child who still craved his mother's nod. "We need time," Ray nodded, leaving a card with hospice details, the door clicking shut like a judge's gavel. That night, curled in bed, Caleb's whisper cut deep. "Go if you must. I'll wait." Again, Joshua pulled him close, tears hot. "Never without you," it was vow, conflict suspended in emotions tied. Snow blanketed Chicago in a hush that December, muffling the city's roar to a conspiratorial whisper, as if the lake itself conspired to bury their secrets deeper. Joshua and Caleb's days fell into a rhythm as steady as the L train's rumble. Mornings tangled in sheets, coffee brewed strong and black. Caleb off to the construction site with a kiss that lingered like smoke. Joshua, freelancing from Theo's sunlit study, sketched blueprints that echoed their own reinvention. Open spaces, high ceilings, rooms that invited light to chase shadows. But Evelyn's shadow lengthened, her hospice card a thorn in Joshua's wallet, pricking with every glance. He'd read her op-ed response in the Tribune, a typed missive from her hospital bed, words halting but heartfelt. "I halted a wedding to wait for a son, not knowing I'd lose two. My boys love fierce. Perhaps that's the Harlan fire I feared." It was olive branch or trap, humanistic plea laced with the drama of a dying woman's reckoning. Calls went unanswered, voicemails stacking like unpaid tolls. "Come see me, Joshua. Bring him. Let me make it right." Caleb noticed the fracture, Of course, his eyes missed nothing, honed sharp by years of scanning for threats. Over takeout Thai one evening, steam rising from curried noodles, he set down his fork. She's pulling strings. Guilt's her weapon now. Joshua poked at his pad CEW. Appetite fled. It's not just that. She's Mom. The one who bandaged knees, baked cinnamon rolls. If she's really gone soon, Caleb finished, voice gentle but edged. Then let her go with peace. From afar, his hand covered Joshua's, calluses rough from drywall dust, a grounding force. But beneath, Joshua sensed the old wound reopening. Caleb's exile from that farmhouse kitchen, Evelyn's prayers turning to silence after his confession. Theo, sensing the rift, suggested neutral ground, a drive to the Indiana dunes over New Year's, a reset amid sand-swept beaches frozen in whitecaps. They piled into Theo's Jeep, a cooler stocked with craft beers and regrets, the radio blasting replacements tracks that Caleb belted with boyish abandon. The dunes rose like ancient sentinels, windswept and stark, and they hiked to a overlook, boots crunching virgin snow, the lake a steel mirror reflecting their bundled forms. There, with gulls wheeling overhead, Caleb dropped to one knee, not proposal, but presentation. A small box from his pocket, containing a locket with their wedding bands nested inside, engraved always north. Kept him safe, he said, clipping it around Joshua's neck. Compass for when storms hit. Joshua pulled him up, kissing him fierce against the gale, salt of tears mingling with lake spray. It was romantic pinnacle, love-defying elements, emotion cresting in vows whispered to the wind. They made love that night in a lakeside cabin Theo had borrowed, fire roaring, bodies illuminated in golden flicker, every touch a affirmation. You are my home. Return brought collision. January thawed the streets to slush, and Joshua's inbox overflowed with feelers from queer advocacy groups, his op-ed sparking interviews, podcasts on love's radical act, panels on family betrayal. Caleb tagged along to one at a Logan Square bookstore, his presence a quiet anchor, but backstage, nerves frayed. They see me as the thug, he muttered, tugging at his button-down. Felon who stole the golden boy. Joshua cupped his face. They see survivors. Us. The event hummed, crowd diverse, from leather daddies to fresh-faced college kids. Joshua's words flowing like catharsis, weaving the halted wedding's absurdity with the courthouse's sanctity. Q&A turned personal. A young man asked about betrayal's scar. Caleb, surprising them both, leaned to the mic. It's like losing a limb. Hurts like hell, but you adapt. Find new strength in the stump. Applause thundered, but backstage, vulnerability cracked him open. In the green room, Caleb paced, voice rising. What if I drag you down? Josh, parole violations if I slip, booze, a fight. Your life's just starting. Mine's a minefield. Conflict ignited. Not shouted but simmering. Joshua's optimism clashing with Caleb's pragmatism. Love tested by reality's grind. You think I'd choose easy over you? After everything. Caleb deflated, pulling him close. I think I love you too much to ruin you. That raw honesty bridged them, leading to therapy, Theo's hookup with a queer counselor specializing in incarceration trauma. Sessions in a cozy Andersonville office. Twice weekly. Peeled layers. Caleb unpacking prison hierarchies. The homoerotic undercurrents that saved and scarred. Joshua confronting internalized shame. The good son mask that choked authenticity. It was humanistic work. emotional excavation, their bond deepening through shared tears and triumphs. Romance persisted in stolen pockets. A date at the Art Institute, wandering impressionist halls hand in hand, Monet's lilies mirroring their bloom, slow dances in the kitchen to Coltrane, Caleb's chin on Joshua's shoulder, world narrowed to sway. But drama escalated mid-February, a package arriving unmarked, Evelyn's Bible, dog-eared, with passages underlined, Leviticus crossed out in red pen, replaced by Corinthians on love's endurance. Tucked inside, a letter. I'm sorry for the wait, for the chains I forged. Come. Forgive. Joshua's resolve wavered, the pull maternal and magnetic. He booked flights to Cleveland, one way, telling Caleb only at the gate, we face it together. Or not at all. The farmhouse airport loomed small and familiar, buckeye trees bare as bones. And the drive home was a time machine, past strip malls and soybean fields, radio silence save for Caleb's fidgeting fingers. Evelyn waited on the porch, thinner, chemo-balled under a scarf, but her smile cracked the ice. My wanderers. Inside, the kitchen smelled of broth and memory. Ray absent, disinherited. Rumor had it, after his leaks backfired in bad press. Emily had visited, leaving daffodils and a card. Happily ever afters take work. Yours starts now. Over tea, Evelyn's confession spilled. The cancer diagnosis pre-wedding, hidden to not burden. The halted ceremony not just for Caleb, but to force a reckoning. I feared losing you both to my fears. Caleb sat rigid, but when she extended a trembling hand, he took it, tears carving tracks. You didn't lose us, Ma. You pushed. Forgiveness unfolded slow, a drama of halting words and hugs that bruised. Joshua mediated, heart aching with the emotion of fractured family mending, humanistic in its imperfection. No fairy tale absolution but steps toward grace. They stayed a week, nursing her through chemo fog, Caleb chopping wood for the stove, Joshua reading aloud from her old novels. Romance threaded through, stolen glances over soup pots, a midnight walk to the barn where it all began, making love on hay bales under stars, bodies urgent and affirming. Departure was tear-streaked, Evelyn pressing cash. For your life, not mine, and a promise. Monthly calls, visits when strength allowed. Back in Chicago, the city felt reborn, their brownstone a true haven. But climax crested unexpectedly. A call from Ohio PD. Ray's doing, alleging Caleb violated parole by fleeing state lines post-release. Drama exploded. Lawyers scrambled, Theo's network rallying petitions. In the courthouse holding cell, Caleb's eyes met Joshua's through glass. Fight smart. Don't lose yourself. Joshua did. Op-ed sequel going national. Free Caleb trending with stories of their love. Hearings dragged. Emotional toll mounting. Sleepless nights. Joshua pacing alone. The ring locket his talisman. Resolution came in spring. Judge swayed by character witnesses. Theo. Emily via video. Ruling travel approved retroactively. Caleb emerged. Suit rumpled. Into Joshua's arms amid flashbulbs. A kiss defiant. Romantic thunder. They celebrated at the hideout. Band playing Thunder Road. Beers raised to survival. Emotion peaked in afterglow. Bodies entwined on their new lease. A one-bedroom in Ukrainian village. Walls echoing with laughter. Spring unfurled in Chicago like a long-held breath. Cherry blossoms dusting sidewalks in pink confetti. The air humming with the promise of rebirth. Joshua and Caleb's apartment became a canvas, walls painted sage green, shelves lined with Caleb's whittled birds from prison scraps and Joshua's architectural models of dream homes. Queer sanctuaries with rainbow-stained glass and hidden nooks for stolen afternoons. Mornings started with sunlight slanting through blinds, coffee percolating as Caleb sketched tattoo designs on napkins, his parole-mandated art therapy blooming into freelance gigs at a pills and ink shop. Joshua's freelance work blossomed too. Commissions from progressive developers for inclusive spaces, lofts with gender-neutral baths, community rooms for support circles. Evenings, they cooked. Joshua's Midwestern meatloaf twisted with harissa from Theo's recipes, Caleb's prison-honed roux for gumbo that thickened like their stories. Romance wove through the mundane. Notes tucked in lunch bags, Mr. Chaos. Slow grinds against the fridge to Al Green croons. Bodies familiar yet electric. Each touch a rediscovery. But emotion's undercurrent ran deep, humanistic threads pulling at old wounds. Caleb's therapy continued, sessions delving into the bar fight's genesis, not just homophobia, but a lover's betrayal, a closeted Marine who'd outed him in rage, leading to the brawl. I swung first, Caleb admitted one night, voice raw over whiskey. But they made me the monster. Joshua held him through the unraveling, their bed a confessional. You're my hero. Always were. It was catharsis, love's labor mending fractures, turning betrayal's scar to strength. Evelyn's updates arrived like seasons, chemocycles easing, scans showing shrinkage, her voice brighter on calls, laced with questions about their life. Tell me about the birds, Caleb. Do they fly free? Visits punctuated, summer drive to Ohio, picnics by the creek where boys once skipped stones, Evelyn's hand frail but steady on theirs, Emily joining once, her new beau a quiet librarian, laughter bridging old divides. Ray lurked peripheral, a ghost emailing apologies Joshua deleted unread, betrayal's echo, but forgiveness selective, a boundary drawn in sand. Drama simmered low until Pride Month, when their story ignited anew. The Trib profiled them for the parade float, fugitive vows, from halted altars to rainbow roads, photos capturing Caleb's tattooed arms around Joshua's waist, rings glinting under confetti rain. Crowds cheered as they marched, signs reading love waits for no prisoner, but trolls swarmed online. Slurs, doxing attempts, a brick through Theo's window with sinners scrawled in marker. Conflict crested that night, post-parade after-party at a Boys Town bar throbbing with bass and bodies. Caleb, buzzed on IPAs, cornered a heckler in the alley. Fists clenched, voice a growl. Say it to my face, coward. Joshua pulled him back, heart hammering, the specter of revocation looming. In the cab home, silence festered. You can't fix hate with hands, Joshua said, soft but firm. Caleb's jaw ticked. Some nights, I want to. For us. Home dissolved into storm, words hurled like lightning. Joshua accusing recklessness, Caleb retorting suppression, the apartment's sanctuary cracking. They slept apart, Joshua on the couch, dreams haunted by church doors slamming. Dawn brought contrition, Caleb's coffee and a sketch. Two birds entwined, wings shielding. I'm sorry. Prison mode, survive first. Think later. Joshua pulled him down, kiss salty with regret. We survived together. No more solos. Emotion flooded, making love urgent then tender, reaffirming bonds frayed but unbroken. Romantic reconciliation. Bodies a map of apologies. Humanistic growth followed. Caleb channeling fire into activism. volunteering with Outlaws Reentry Program, mentoring kids on the edge, tattoos bared as badges, not burdens. Joshua designed a community center for them, pro bono, walls echoing with workshops on art and anger. Summer deepened their roots, a road trip to Niagara Falls, mist-shrouded and majestic, where they renewed vows under the roar, water's power mirroring their resilience. Evelyn joined virtually, her health rallying, toasting via Zoom with herbal tea, to weights that were worth it. But betrayal's ghost stirred in autumn. Ray resurfacing with a proposition. Harlan Properties teetering. Inheritance bait to lure Joshua back as CEO. Email detailed, family needs you. Caleb can consult remote. It was Serpent's whisper, cloaked in legacy. Joshua showed Caleb over breakfast, bagels steaming. He thinks we're pawns still. Caleb's laugh was steel. Let it burn. But doubt flickered, Joshua's old ambition. The boardroom polish that chafed now against calluses. Climax brewed at Evelyn's prompting. Thanksgiving in Ohio. Full Harlan table. Ray invited under truce flag. The farmhouse glowed with candles. Turkey aromas mingling with tension. Emily and her partner adding levity with board games. Evelyn, stronger now, presided. Grace said over hands linked across divides. Post-feast, Ray cornered Joshua in the study. Ledgers spread. Companies bleeding. Your designs could save it. For Mom, Joshua's pulse raced. Conflict internal. The pull of duty versus freedom. It's not just business. It's control. Ray's mask slipped. Voice pleading, I leaked to protect us. Feared you'd both end up like him in a cell. Broken. Caleb entered then. Door creaking. Eyes stormy. Broken? I'm whole. Because of him. The room thickened. Evelyn drawn by voices. Emily hovering. Words erupted, Ray defending empire. Caleb accusing greed. Joshua bridging with truth. We build our own now. But family? That's choice. Not chains. Evelyn's intervention hushed them. Hand on Ray's arm. Enough. I've chained us long enough. Tears fell. Betrayal confronted. A humanistic turning. Ray's nod. Grudging. Papers shredded in the hearth. Outside, under harvest moon, Joshua and Caleb walked the fields, hands clasped, emotion cresting in quiet vows. No more waiting, Caleb murmured. Only forward, Joshua echoed. Back in Chicago, winter's hush settled, their life a tapestry woven tight, job steady, friends a circle, Theo's barbecues, outlaws bonfires, love's flame steady burn. Yet drama's final arc loomed. Evelyn's remission full, but a heart scare in February, pulling them east. In her hospital room, monitors beeping, she pressed a deed farmhouse half to them. For new memories, recovery was slow, visits a rhythm, Ray's redemption tentative. Checks for the community center, awkward lunches. Betrayal faded to footnote. Forgiveness a process, not event. Spring 2026 found them at the farm for planting. Hands in soil, Evelyn directing from a rocker. Romance bloomed literal, wildflowers in Caleb's hair. Joshua's sketches of expansions. Queer retreat center. Cabins for healing. One evening, barn loft, hayloft stars above, they made love with the ease of seasons, bodies synced in eternal dance. This is us, Joshua whispered, heart full. Caleb's smile, soft, finally free. The farmhouse stood sentinel through that first full summer of reclaimed ground. its white clapboard peeled but proud under the Ohio sun. Wild roses climbing trellises like veins pulsing with forgiveness. Joshua and Caleb split weeks between Chicago's pulse and this rural heartbeat. The drive a ritual, Springsteen cassettes, pit stops for gas station subs, hands intertwined over the console like roots seeking soil. Evelyn's health held, a fragile miracle of meds and mindset, her days filled with garden tending and letters to old church friends, rewriting narratives in looping script. In Chicago, their life thrummed with purpose. Caleb's tattoo apprenticeship at Ink and Iron blossoming into a solo booth, designs fusing prison motifs, barbed wire unraveling into vines, with Midwestern motifs, clients drawn to his quiet intensity, stories inked as talismans. Each one's a release, he'd say, needle humming, Joshua watching from the lobby, pride swelling like yeast in dough. Joshua's firm, Harlan reimagined, a cheeky rebrand, Sans Ray's empire, consulted on adaptive reuse, warehouses to artist lofts, banks to bathhouses, infusing spaces with intention, quiet rooms for grief, walls that whispered welcome. Theo partnered on projects, their trio a force, late nights over blueprints dissolving into laughs and lore. Romance remained their compass, woven into the warp of days. Anniversary surprise, Caleb blindfolding Joshua for a hot air balloon over the dunes. Dawn painting skies in blush and gold. Vows renewed midair with champagne pops. Or lazy Sundays in the apartment. Brunch charcuterie sprawled on the rug, feeding each other olives between kisses that trailed to slow. Sun-dappled lovemaking, bodies a language of belonging. Emotion's depth showed in subtleties, the way Caleb froze at sirens, Joshua's thumb tracing his palm until breath evened, Joshua's midnight scrolls through old wedding photos, Caleb deleting them with a murmur. New album now. Therapy evolved to couple sessions. Unpacking the halt's echo. Joshua's guilt over Emily. Caleb's over stealing him. Turning pain to poetry. Love's humanism in honest excavation. Family mended mosaic style. No seamless whole but beautiful in cracks. Emily's wedding that fall. A lakeside affair in Milwaukee. Joshua walking her down the aisle at her esque. Caleb best man in a suit that hugged his frame. Toasts laced with to unlived lives. Gratefully left. Ray appeared sporadically. A uncle thawed. Funding the retreat center anonymously. A gruff, proud emailed after Caleb's first solo exhibit. Ink and wood carvings bared. Evelyn's legacy unfurled profound. The farm's barn converted to workshop space, hosting outlaws' retreats, ex-cons carving, painting, voices rising in circle shares under rafters where Joshua and Caleb's first secrets whispered. One night, fireflies dancing, Evelyn joined a session, sharing her prison of prejudice, tears mingling with applause, Caleb's arm around her, a tableau of redemption, dramatic in quiet power. Conflict's embers flared once more. Autumnal. A developer eyeing the farm for condos. Ray's old firm spearheading. Ethics bent. Joshua confronted him in a diner booth. Fluorescent hum underscoring tension. This is her piece. Ours. Ray's eyes. Weary? Was mine too. Once. Ambition's blind. He pulled strings. Deal killed. A nod to atonement. Betrayal's full circle. Humanistic in concession. Winter brought introspection. Snow blanketing the world soft. Caleb proposed expansion. Adopting. A boy from the system. Echoes of their shared bunk. Joshua's heart clenched. Fear of cycles. But love's logic prevailed. Yes. Our family. On our terms. Paperwork piled. Home studies probed. But their bond shone. Fort building in the living room. Reading Heather has two mommies aloud with mock seriousness. Laughter echoing. Climax crested unexpectedly. Spring 2027. Evelyn's decline swift. Pneumonia claiming what cancer spared. They rushed to her bedside. Monitors a dirge. Her hand clasping theirs. "No regrets," she whispered, eyes on Caleb's compass tattoo. "You showed me true north." Her passing was gentle, surrounded by sons. Emily, even Ray, funeral a blend. Hymns softened by Joan Baez, eulogies weaving halt to harmony. Graveside, under budding maples, Joshua spoke, "She waited for us. We waited for this peace." Grief's wave crashed post-burial. Caleb retreating to the barn, whittling furiously. Joshua joining with sketches, designs for a memorial garden. Benches etched with her words. Emotion poured. Nights sobbing into each other. Days building. Love's anchor in storm. Romance rekindled in healing. A trip to California. Big Sur cliffs where waves hurled defiance. Making love in a cliffside cabin. Bodies reclaiming joy. Back home. Adoption approved. A 6-year-old named Eli. Wide-eyed with foster scars. Their first night a fort of pillows. Stories spun till dawn. Eli's integration was drama's sweet chaos. Tantrums met with patience. Caleb's bedtime birds whittled small. Joshua's models including treehouses. Family grew. Theo, Uncle T. Emily's visits with her toddler. Ray's awkward gifts of model trains. Years layered like sedimentary rock. Eli's first pride. Rainbow face paint smudged on Caleb's cheek. The retreat center's grand opening. Evelyn's plaque gleaming. Joshua's TEDx talk on weddings unhalted. Caleb in front row. Eyes shining. Betrayal's shadow? Faded sepia. Lessons etched. Love demands vigilance. Forgiveness choice. Their story trended anew. Not as scandal but inspiration. Podcasts. A memoir in talks. But they guarded privacy. Life's quiet, the true triumph. One anniversary. Farm porch swing creaking. Eli asleep inside. Sunset bleeding gold. Caleb pulled Joshua close. From that church crash to this. Worth every wait. Joshua kissed him. Slow and sure. No more waiting. Just us. Under stars. Hands linked. Rings worn to silver. They swung into forever. A gay American odyssey. Dramatic in depths. Emotional in ebbs. Romantic in rises. Humanistic in its profound, imperfect grace.